Hi. Good evening. I'd like to call the December 21st, 2020 school board meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Case,
Here.
Mrs. Casper,
Here.
Dr. Kennedy,
Here.
Mrs. Cocker. Here. Mr. Martin,
Here.
Mr. McCray,
Here.
Mr. Negrini,
Here.
Mr. Schneider,
Here.
and we have Mr. Hart. That's 9 present, 0 absent.
Please stand for the pledge of the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag
The flag of the United States of America.
and to the republic
And the republic
which
which
stands
stands
one
one
nation
nation
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
with
and
and
justice
justice for all.
for all. Okay, Mr. Moravich, we do not have any participation on agenda items this evening. Would you still like to talk before we start?
No, that's all right. Thank you.
The board met in executive session tonight for private issues, responding to personnel and other items. Looking for a motion to request approval of the minutes of the school board meeting held on December 7th, 2020 as attached. Looking for a motion.
So moved,
So-
Martin.
Mr. Martin. first.
Second.
Second, Mr.
Second
Case. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Treasury report, Mr. Martin.
Mr. President, I submit tonight the investment report for the general fund, the financial reports, general and capital fund reports as presented.
Looking for a second.
Schneider.
I couldn't hear that. Who was it?
It was Schneider, second.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. We have a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Case,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McCray,
Yes.
Mr. Negrini,
Yes.
Mr. Schneider,
Yes.
Mr. Hart.
Yes.
It's 9-4, 0 against.
Payment of bills, Mr. Martin.
Mr. President, I submit for funds payment tonight out of general fund of $2,555,828.76. And out of 2019 A construction bond fund, $204,200.
Thank you. Do we have a second? We have a second.
Schneider. Second case.
Mr. Schneider, second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Case,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McCray,
Yeah.
Mr. Negrini,
Yes.
Mr. Schneider,
Yes.
Mr. Hart.
Yes.
That's 9-4, 0 against.
Financial reports, Mr. Martin.
Mr. President, I submit for tonight's approval, all for November, the cafeteria report, child care report, the activity accounts for Southern Middle School, Wilson West Middle School, and the senior high.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second case.
Mr. Case, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Case,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McCray,
Yes.
Mr. Negrini,
Yes.
Mr. Schneider,
Yes.
Mr. Hart.
Yes.
9-4, 0 against.
Superintendent's report, Dr. Fadley.
Thank you, President Hart. I submit this evening the personnel and program recommendations as listed.
Looking for a motion to approve the superintendent's report, agenda items 6.1 through 6.7 as attached.
Cocker.
Mrs. Cocker first. Do you have a second?
Casper, second.
Mrs. Casper, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Case,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McCray,
Yes.
Mr. Negrini,
Yes.
Mr. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Hart.
Yes.
9-4, 0 against.
Consent items. Mrs. Cocker, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes. 7.1, request to accept with gratitude a donation to each Wilson School District building from the Wilson Education Foundation for the purpose of creating a memorable moment for our students. The donated monies were given to the building principal for allocation, and the criteria is to use the funds for a special activity or to purchase something for their building to create a memorable moment to celebrate their students. Each elementary building received $500, and the middle schools and high school each received $800. Also, from Cornwall Terrace Elementary PTO, a check in the amount of $384 to be used for pencil boxes for Cornwall Terrace students. Also, from Southern Middle School PTO, a check in the amount of $336 used for a luncheon for staff at Southern Middle School on November 24th, 2020. 7.2. Request approval of the appointment of Guadalupe Casper as our district representative to the Joint Operating Committee of Berk's Career and Technology Center for 2021. 7.3, request approval of the appointment of Dr. Amy Kennedy as our district representative to the Berks County Intermediate Unit for 2021. 7.4, request to approve the appointment of our designated representatives to the PA School Board Association for 2021. 7.5, request approval of representatives to the Spring Township Park and Recreation Board for 2021, Heath A. Stam and William Herbine.
Thank you. Looking for an approval of agenda items 7.1 through 7.5 as presented.
So moved, Case.
Mr. Case first, second.
Martin, second.
Mr. Martin, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Human Resources, 8.1. Request to accept the resignation of Richard H. Fadley as superintendent under his 2017 agreement to enter into a new agreement as set forth below. Looking for a motion.
Martin moves.
Mr. Martin first, do we have a second?
Schneider.
Mr. Schneider, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Case,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy, Mrs. Cocker,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McCray,
Yes.
Mr. Negrini,
Yes.
Mr. Snyder,
Yes.
and Mr. Hart.
Yes.
It's 9-4, 0 against.
8.2, request to approve entering into an agreement with Richard H. Fadley, effective through June 30th, 2023, for the position of superintendent. Looking for a motion.
Casper.
Mrs. Casper first, do we have a second?
Martin.
Mr. Martin second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Case,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McCray,
Yes.
Mr. Negrini,
Yes.
Mr. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Hart.
Yes.
It's 9-4, 0 against.
Congratulations, Dr. Fadley.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the support.
8.3, request authorization for the superintendent to make employment commitments to qualified applicants for the purpose of filling vacancies that occur after the December 21st, 2020 board meeting, with action to be ratified at the board of directors next official meeting. 8.4, request to approve the employees for specialized leave under the FFCRA to ensure PSER's years of service credit is maintained. 8.5, request to approve building bulldog stipends for Angela Mitzcipher, Madeline Boer, Susan Wales, Laura Burkholder, Nancy Snyder, and Jessica Knott in the total amount of $3,000, $500 to each individual. The stipends would be paid for organizing the program and would be funded out of the Title Belfour. Looking for an approval of human resources of 8.3 through 8.5 as presented.
Crocker first.
Schneider, second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Case,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McCray,
Yes.
Mr. Negrini,
Yes.
Mr. Schneider,
Yes.
Mr. Hart.
Yes.
It's 9-4, 0 against.
Under operations, 9.1, request permission to purchase district copy paper and supplies through the BCIU bid from January 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2021. 9.2, request permission to renew the agreement with BSGI for the NFPA code inspections district-wide for the time period of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023, pending solicitor review and approval. 9.3, request permission to renew the agreement with BSGI for the Salient Video Surveillance System, YUP, from June 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2022, pending solicitor review and approval. 9.4, request permission to renew the agreement with SSM for AHERA 3-year reinspection and 6-month surveillance inspections, pending solicitor review and approval. Looking for a motion to approve agenda items 9.1 through 9.4 as presented.
Martin moves.
Mr. Martin first, do we have a second?
McCray?
Mr. McCray, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Case,
Yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McCray,
Yes.
Mr. Negrini,
Yes.
Mr. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Hart.
Yes.
It's 9-4, 0 against.
Under finance, 10.1, request approval of the budget transfers dated November 12th, 2020 through December 16th, 2020 as attached. 10.2, request approval of the final draft of the revised Wilson School District Business Privilege and Mercantile Tax Regulations effective January 1st, 2021 as attached. 10.3, request approval to exonerate 2 separate July 1st, 2020 per capita bills per board policy. Looking for a motion to approve agenda items 10.1 through 10.3 as presented.
Martin moves.
Mr. Martin first, we have a second.
Schneider, second.
Mr. Schneider second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Case,
Yes.
Casper,
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McCray,
Yes.
Mr. Negrini,
Yes.
Mr. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Hart.
Yes.
9-4, 0 against.
Under transportation, 11.1, request approval of the transportation contract with the BCIU to transport to the Camp Hill Special School at a rate of $113.73 per student per day through September 23rd, 2020, and then an adjusted rate of $94.78 per student per day from September 24th, 2020 through the end of the school year, unless the contract is modified and or terminated. 11.2, request approval of proposal with Hafer Petroleum at an estimated cost of $7,000 for both time and material for repair to the existing underground fuel system to the property hydrostatically test under the dispenser containment and sump. These repairs are required for the diesel and unleaded underground storage tanks to pass the annual inspection for 3 years and required by both new DEP regulations of December 2019. Looking for a motion?
McCray?
Mr. McCray first. Do we have a second?
Martin.
Mr. Martin second. Any discussion?
Just a comment. I'm still going to continue to push for electric buses. I just wanted to say the $7,000, if we were going electric buses, we wouldn't have this cost. Granted, we still have tanks in the ground, but just wanted to throw that out there. I don't think the $7,000 was part of our cost justification between electric and petroleum or LP. So just a comment. Thanks.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Case,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McCray,
Yes.
Mr. Negrini,
Yes.
Mr. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Hart.
Yes.
It's 9-4, 0 against.
Under policies, a final reading and adoption. Final reading and adoption of the following revised policies. Number 340, responsibility for student welfare. 803, school calendar. 810.3, school vehicle drivers, and 907, school visitors. Looking for a motion?
So moved.
I'm sorry, so was that Mr. Case?
Sure. Yes. So
I'm
moved.
sorry. And a second,
Cocker.
Martin.
Mr. Cocker.
Oh.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Case,
Yes.
Mrs. Casper,
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McCray,
Yes.
Mr. Negrini,
Yes.
Mr. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Hart.
Yes.
It's 9-4, 0 against.
And then a second reading of the policies listed. Under miscellaneous, we have the enrollment report. And now we have committee reports. Berkshire County Career and Technology Center, Mrs. Casper.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, so the BCTC met on Thursday, December 10th at the West Campus. It was a hybrid format, and there wasn't much to report as this was our final reorganizational meeting for the year. And we got a chance to meet some of the new JOC members from the different sending districts and say farewell to a couple of others from other districts. All of the members were given the annual gift that was made by our students in our horticultural program, which was this nice little spruce tree that we can plant outdoors. It kind of was a little bit sad this year, given that we couldn't gather and meet for our annual holiday dinner that's usually prepared by our students in the culinary program. And it's kind of memorable for me as that was the first meeting that I had last year at this time. So was a little bit sad reflecting on that. And there were also no tours given this time. I do recall something, hearing something about the BCTC becoming a full electrical apprenticeship provider in the area, which I think would be a great resource for our local workforce. And they did give a shout out to all, and I would second it, to all of our sending school building principals, our high school principals, for their diligence in carrying out our continuity of education plans and to working to keep our students safe. They did hold another virtual open house to highlight the new welding facility and their new welding program. And they continue to hold virtual recruitment at the request of the individual high schools. So I hope that Wilson is taking advantage of this to encourage our enrollment from Wilson for next year. The BCTC is currently planning parent conferences. Parents will be able to sign up through an online job form for a time slot during the evenings. They can log in during that time, during the time frame, and then the parents will meet with the individual teachers virtually. That's the extent of my report. Our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, January 27th at the East Campus.
Thank you. Wilson Equity Task Force, Mrs. Casper and Dr. Kennedy.
There is no report. Our next meeting is January 6th at 3.
Thank you. BCIU and Curriculum Council, Dr. Kennedy.
Yes, there has not been a BCIU or a curriculum committee meeting since our last meeting, and we won't have one until the third week in January. So no report.
Correction, Dr. Kennedy, we got, that's getting bumped up, I believe, the January meeting for the curriculum committee.
To the second week in January.
January 13th.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Berk CIT, Dr. Faley, do we have a representative?
Joanne, I don't believe there's a report for the Berkshire IT this evening.
Okay, thank you. And our thoughts still go out to Mrs. Schlossman and her family. So 14.6 extracurricular, Mrs. Cocker.
Yes, the extracurricular committee held our last meeting last Monday, December 14th at noon, and we had a really interesting idea brought to the board or to the committee about esports becoming, currently it's kind of like an extracurricular club, and becoming more of a sport with coaches and like we see in colleges and around the country. So that is something that the committee has moved forward and should be coming to the board shortly. And I think it's a really neat opportunity to give a different kind of sport to students who aren't necessarily interested in athletics as their only sport. So it was a really great presentation, and the students spoke very enthusiastically about their club and their hope to move it forward into another realm. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Facilities, Mr. Negrini.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. We met last Monday. The majority of our meeting discussed the 5-year capital project and specifically the budgeted line item for the Wilson West track renovation. It had originally been budgeted for $400,000. One of the estimated costs of the renovation over at the West Track, which is coming toward the end of its original life cycle, is about $150,000 under the original budget line item. So some other potential things that are in need of repair have been brought to the table. That would include the high jump and pole vault pit at the high school, the potential for a new press box at George Mack Field, fencing around the storage area of Gursky Stadium, fencing around the JV softball field, replacement of backboards at Southern and the lower house, and also the potential of a digital sign installed at the corner of Dwight and Van Reed. This is an item that we had discussed many months ago with the idea of possibly having multiple digital signs throughout the district. So we're trying to get a better idea of the overall costs of some of those other items to see whether or not that would fall within that cost savings of $150,000 for the track, and whether or not anything above and beyond that should be utilized through the 2019 A bond. The other thing that was not discussed at our facilities meeting, but I think we should discuss it in a little more detail, perhaps tonight and at another meeting. And I don't want to take away from some public comment that may be on non-agenda items. But back in April, I had brought to the table about the Wilson Marching Band Facebook group about possibly naming the Wilson High School Auditorium after Frank J. Ferraro. Unfortunately, Frank passed away over the weekend, and there was some hope that this naming right would be done at a time that he would get to see all of the time that he'd spent at the district rewarded for longevity purposes. I just want to discuss a little bit about Frank Ferraro's career here at Wilson. Frank was the supervisor of music for 29 years. He was the first organizer of the Wilson Marching Band in 1964. And during his 26 years in leading the Wilson Marching Band, he and many of the students that have come through the halls of this district had accomplished some incredible feats. I can name a few. There are so many to mention. They were voted the #1 band in the United States in 1969 by Ruffles and Flourishes, which is a national band magazine. They were the winner of 8 national AAA championships in Washington, D.C. They were the Honor Band Award winners at the 1969 Indianapolis 500 Festival, the 1970 International Festival in Toledo, Ohio, and the 1970 and 72 Miss America pageant parades. There was an accomplishment of the winner of the National Championship Parade at the competition of Festival of States in St. Petersburg, Florida in 1971 and 1983. They were the winner of the Cavalcade of Band Championship 9 times between 1965 and 1973. The marching bands had performed 12 times at the halftime of Eagles, Jets, and the Washington football team. But what I found most, I believe, rewarding and something that has affected so many graduates is that there is a belief that during his direction here at Wilson, 1 out of every 4 students participated in some manner with the Wilson Band or Band Front. Mr. Ferraro is a member of the World Drum Corps Hall of Fame, the Cavalcade of Bands Hall of Fame, and the Reading Buccaneer Hall of Fame. I think if there's anyone deserving of recognition and having a facility named after them, it is Frank J. Ferraro. So I would look forward to a future date of making this part of a public agenda and having a ceremony worthy of the accomplishments of this great man. And certainly I think the graduates who have had the opportunity to work and perform under Mr. Ferraro would greatly appreciate the opportunity to be part of that ceremony. So I just wanted to share that in closing of my report. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Hart,
Negrini. Yes.
Mr. Hart, may I add
Yes.
just one thing? District administration reached out to an individual, I believe her last name was Button, who has been the spokesperson for the group. My understanding is they have a petition of over 600 signatures already to date. So in our conversation with her this afternoon, just to add to Mr. Negrini's report, we indicated that it certainly would be something that we would be honored to bring to the full board. Perhaps we could, Mr. Negrini, talk about this at the next facilities committee meeting, because part of our conversation focused around, in the event that we build a new auditorium, how fitting it would be to incorporate into the design some sort of very nice showcase that is deserving of this individual's contributions to the Wilson School District, and engaging the community, and maybe not 1 but 2 potentially celebrations. One to actually formalize the naming of our auditorium, but the second one is at the groundbreaking. Hopefully we can all get together at that point in time and really celebrate a great music educator and contributor to the Wilson School District for many generations.
Great. Thank you. Finance Committee, Mr. Martin.
No report. I will be getting together with Christina so we can get something on the agenda for, I mean, not on the agenda. We'd like to get a meeting scheduled prior to our next board meeting, but I will contact Christina in about a week or so.
Great, thank you. Human Resources, no report. Legislative, Mr. Martin.
No report.
Public Relations, Mrs. Troutman.
Sure, I just have a couple items. Just one PR item. Obviously, I think we're all aware that our winter break begins this Wednesday for our students, this Wednesday, December 23rd. So there is a communication that we have prepared to go out to all of our families tomorrow evening that reminds them about the scheduled winter break as well as the scheduled week of remote learning that we had previously announced that will happen from January 4th to the 8th. We're also going to be executing an additional communications plan as we lead up to January 4th, just again reminding families about that remote learning and all of the resources and things we'll have available to them, similar to what we did for the week of remote learning after the Thanksgiving break. Then I do have some nice recognition that I wanted to share with you. We did have a Green Valley Elementary student, her name's Mackenzie Besner, that was recently featured in the Reading Eagle for a community service project that she undertook to make greeting cards for the police departments in our area. Mackenzie's original goal was to prepare 300 cards, and then after promoting her project, cards came in from all over, including many students and families in our own community, which is awesome. So she more than doubled her goal of creating 300 cards and has been delivering much needed holiday spirit to our local law enforcement this season. So we're super proud of Mackenzie and we're thrilled to see her recognized in an article in the Reading Eagle. And then I also wanted to mention that obviously things look a little bit different this year. And typically this is the time when we have lots of holiday concerts and things of that nature, but our students and our staff are resilient and coming up with very creative ways to share their talents. And a great example of that was our high school orchestra produced a beautiful virtual performance that we were able to share on social media, and our community loved it. They loved watching that on social media, and it just really shows how much our community really appreciates all the talents of our students. And again, just how resilient our students are and creative they are during this time. So thank you.
Thank you. Technology, Mr. Schneider.
Sorry, I was muted. We met today. We went through a couple of things. The first was we were presented with some of the professional development pieces that the faculty is going through, as well as some stuff that's been put out for parents and guardians in terms of the 2 remote weeks that we had and are going to have post Thanksgiving and post winter holiday to help them be able to troubleshoot and help coach along our learners in that remote environment. We talked about transitioning to some newer devices in terms of getting some touch screens more in the hands of our students to be able to have them better able to do a variety of different things. And then lastly, we talked about a software app that would allow our students to utilize programs that traditionally you had to be on site for or in a specific classroom for. This would allow them to use them remotely, either at home or just in a study hall that's in a different room from where that particular hardware sits. So some pretty exciting stuff actually in terms of tech, and I am super non-techie, and I found that all to be very exciting, fun stuff. So that's my report.
Thank you. Student outreach, Mr. Johnny Clark.
Over the past few weeks, our students have been able to adapt to the changes and requirements to maintain our hybrid model. With the recent news regarding winter sports, our athletes have been thankful for the attempts that were made and are excited to begin their seasons when it is appropriate. I wanted to thank the board for giving us the chance to start practice, and I'm hopeful that we will have a great season in the new year. I also wanted to take this time to talk about how much our students have missed their sports and clubs. At Wilson, there's a sport or club for almost every interest, and we are thankful that we can meet virtually. I would also like to thank my dance team coaches and all of my club advisors for stepping up and being so involved and so invested in us. Without them, none of this would happen. And thank you to Mrs. Kuhn for putting together the orchestra video and for putting together the upcoming one that should be shared out on social media sometime soon.
Great, thank you. Mr. Moravich, we have one person for communications this evening, which will be read by Mrs. Carroll. Do you have any words?
No, just happy holidays to everyone, and hopefully we'll be in person next year so we can do the peppermint pig.
Thanks, John. Mrs. Carroll.
Yes, we have a comment from Monica Button, and it is regarding the high school auditorium being named after Frank J. Ferraro. As most of you are probably aware, several Wilson alumni started a petition on Saturday to rename the auditorium. Before Frank's passing on Sunday morning, over 200 people signed the petition. As I am sending this email on Monday morning, over 600 people have signed. If you look at Facebook pages, there are hundreds of heartwarming comments as to what Frank Ferraro did for students. It's time to honor the man who had the vision that resulted in putting Wilson High School Band on the national stage in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. We are saddened we didn't start the endeavor earlier. We would have loved for Frank to be present when the auditorium was named, but in our hearts, we hope he knows how much he meant to us and how much he was appreciated. As one alum so eloquently put it, thank you for the music of my life. Please consider this request.
Thank you. I want to wish everyone a happy holiday season. Dr. Fadley, congratulations on your contract that will run through June 30th, 2023, and open up to the board members for any other business.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Yep, Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and God bless you for next year.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you. Looking for a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Schneider.
Mr. Schneider first. Do you have a second?
McCray.
Mr. McCray. Thank you, everyone. Have a great holiday.
2021, here we come.
Bye.